checking with Belial the other day, and I was kind of like, I kind of asked, like, you know, what do you sort of expect of me at the moment? Like, is there something that my attention should be focused on? And he was like, look what you wrote down in your grimoire 6 months ago. And I looked, I was like, oh shit, yeah, I didn't actually do that. I did, like, not out of necessarily, maybe there was some avoidance there of it, but also for the most part just completely forgetting. So I was like, okay, cool, I'll get on that. 2 weeks have passed, I still haven't got on that yet. Hello everyone, BlackWitchDirah here. Welcome back to my channel, and welcome to those new here. For those of you that don't know, my name is BlackWitchDirah. I am a Luciferian witch of the left-hand path and an occult educator, and on this channel I talk about all things occult, mainly along the lines of left-hand path philosophy, demonology and all that stuff. So if that is of interest to you, please consider subscribing to my channel. I upload every Saturday at 8 PM UK time. So today I thought I'd make a video on being an occultist and also being neurodivergent and how that kind of works out and everything that's entailed within that. So that's going to be what I'm talking about today. But before I get into that, usual kind of announcements. So Witch Skills soft launch, for those of you who haven't subscribed to the soft launch yet, for you to have 2 weeks free access to content, you can still do so. And I've had a few emails this week asking me, oh, when can I get access to the content? Nothing's there at the moment. I'm just like, yes, I know. It's coming on the 30th of September, so please sit tight until then. We are allowing enough time to get as many people as possible on the soft launch. And of course, as an occult educator, I have several courses and learning programs available, all of which are linked in the description. Well, most of which. So what do I have? I have courses on working with Santa Mote. For those of you that didn't watch my video last week, I mentioned that there is some brand new content within Santa Mote Part 2, so go check that out. I have a class on astral magic that we did a little while ago. That is almost 3 whole hours of everything that is entailed in astral magic. I have a course on baneful magic, to hex or not to hex, for all you need to know about baneful magic. So if any of those sound appealing, go and check those out. They are linked in the description. And I also have my workshop program that has launched. So for monthly workshops, Q&As, tests, quizzes, one-on-one help with me, depending on the tier that you're subscribed to, discounts off of all of my educational content. You can go and check out my workshop program that I am running on my YouTube channel. So into today's topic, being neurodivergent and also being an occultist. How is this challenging, and how is it also sometimes a bit of a superpower? So what I mean by neurodivergent is I am diagnosed with autism and ADHD, so ADHD you could describe that as. And what does that mean for me? It's quite a confusing mix, because sometimes like they kind of contradict each other. For example, autism tends to thrive off of routine, but ADHD feels pressured by routine. So it's a real kind of clusterfuck there, and quite difficult to navigate at times. So in terms of what makes my occult, how does it make my occult practice sometimes more difficult? The autistic side, not so much, definitely more like the ADHD stuff, because in terms of getting things done, ADHD can be such a bitch. I'd say the biggest issue with my ADHD and my occult practice is how I switch from being hyper-focused to being absolutely burnt out. So I can go and go and go for so long, to the point where I will probably overexert myself, get loads and loads of stuff done, be the most productive person ever, and then that will be for like 2 or 3 days, and then for like the next 2 or 3 days after that, I am the most unproductive person ever, and I end up feeling like a piece of shit because I'm just like, you're lazy, and why can you never do what you say you're going to do, and why can you never remain consistent? Consistency is what I find hardest about having ADHD, because I can't tell the difference to when I'm hyper focused and doing too much and being productive. Often when I am being productive, it never feels like enough. Also makes me very forgetful. So I have to write like everything down, and when it comes to all of my spell work and my ritual work and everything that I need to schedule in, I have about 3 different Excel spreadsheets where I have to like write things down and move things around and everything. I can't just have one, I need to have like 3, so that like they're kind of written in different ways so that they make sense in different ways. I don't know how to explain it, but so yeah, I have to write everything down so I know exactly what I'm doing and when I'm doing it. I think that's kind of like common practice anyway, to schedule in spell and ritual work so that you know, like according to like moon phases and stuff, when you're going to do things. But yeah, like I need like 3 different fucking schedules, and that's not including my calendar apps as well. So I have like 2 calendar apps that I use, both notify me before appointments and things like that. So in total, probably about like 5 different things that I need to use to help keep me in routine. Time management is another issue. I really struggle with time management because everything takes longer than I think it should. So, for example, sitting down to record this video, it's currently like 3:30 in the afternoon. Ideally, I would like to be getting this done a lot earlier in my day. So, yeah, time management is a big thing because I often underestimate how much time it takes me to do things, because I am what I call a faffer. Every time I have something planned, I need an allowance of like 20 minutes faff time for just faffing about. And whenever I need to do something, for example, like sit down and record a video, I need to make sure I have everything. So I need to make sure that my camera's charged, which I cannot tell you how many times I sit down to record a video and my camera's like dying because I've forgotten to fucking charge the battery. And I need to make sure that I have this there, and I have my water, and I have my vape, and you know, I'm all ready, like I'm all done up and everything, and it's just a whole process within itself, and there's just so much faffing. And often when I'm faffing, if I like go and get something, I forget why I went into that room in the first place to go and get the thing, and then I get distracted by something else. So it's just incredibly time consuming having ADHD, because of how much like my brain gets diverted onto other things. I also dislike the aspects of, not just with like the occult in general, but like just my daily life. Anything unstimulating is just torture. Like I just can't do it. I have to be in a very hyper focused state to get any kind of like boring admin work done. So that goes, if you ever get a spell service from me and you wonder why it took me 2 weeks to get you the fucking report after actually casting it, it's because I've not been in a hyper-focused state where I've sat down and been able to write that fucking thing out, even though it doesn't take me very long to do. But I always say, oh yeah, I'm behind on reports. I am. Not because they take a long time and they're time-consuming, but I just have to be in the right fucking frame of mind to do them, unfortunately. And they're also kind of not a priority work-wise as well. So I'm trying to prioritise other things that I've also been distracted from doing with me and my brain. Now, when it comes to ritual, you would think that ritual would probably be difficult for someone with ADHD, because you have to sit still and you have to still your mind and things like that. But ritual is actually very, very stimulating in a lot of ways. So ritual isn't something that I personally find difficult. Meditation sometimes, not always though. I'm surprisingly okay when it comes to meditation and actually stilling my mind. Preparing for ritual, however, getting everything I need together, making sure that everything's in the right place, and then I sit down to do it and realise I've forgotten something. That shit is exhausting. And if I am ever avoiding doing a ritual, it's usually not because of the ritual itself, but because of the preparation that I have to do for it, and how I just can't stand the idea of it. Even if it takes me like 5 minutes, it just seems like this huge thing that I need to do. But I'd say that the most kind of major way that I find my ADHD to be kind of troubling when it comes to being an occultist is the fact that if I don't live up to my word and do something when I say I'll do it, I end up beating myself up, because I then reflect that back on myself as I'm not a competent magician. And then obviously I feel bad about myself, I feel bad about my practice, I'm not good enough, I'm not showing up enough, I need to do more. And it's this constant kind of cycle of like expecting too much of myself, not delivering, and then expecting more of myself next time. So I'd say that cycle is the thing that kind of messes with me the most, and the perfectionism that falls into that as well, like expecting myself to live up to certain standards. And it's also like a guilt thing as well, like I feel guilty that I'm not doing what's advised of me by my spirits at times when I haven't shown up for things. Like I was working with Belial the other day, and I was kind of like, I kind of asked, like, you know, what do you sort of expect of me at the moment? Like, is there something that my attention should be focused on? And he was like, look what you wrote down in your grimoire 6 months ago. I looked, I was like, oh shit, yeah, I didn't actually do that. I did, like, not out of necessarily, maybe there was some avoidance there of it, but also for the most part just completely forgetting. So I was like, okay, cool, I'll get on that. 2 weeks have passed, I still haven't got on that yet. So this is what I mean, right? And you might just think like, why can't you just do it? And I don't have an answer for that. I don't know. Thankfully though, I feel that who I work with, in terms of spirits, demons, etc., I feel like they're very patient with me, to some degree. So yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, if something genuinely needs doing, I will do it. I always keep up with my offerings. Okay, maybe not always, like 90% of the time I keep up with my offerings, and anything that I have to do, I'll do it, because I do work incredibly well with deadlines, which is why I'm able to very much, you know, like show up for client work. If I'm paid for a spell service, like of course, like I'll get on it. But when it comes to myself and the work I should be doing on myself, it's easier for me to be complacent with that, because there's not really a deadline attached to it. Whereas if someone's paid me to do something, it's just like, yeah, absolutely, you know, there's a deadline on it. That's what makes it difficult when it comes to working on myself and showing up for myself in my practice, rather than just, you know, the actual like work side of it, because there's not a deadline on it. I'm not having other people expecting things of me other than myself. So those are kind of the disadvantages of being neurodivergent, ADHD, and being an occultist. What are the advantages? So I feel like ADHD can be a superpower when it comes to projects, because when I'm in hyperfocus, you know, I can get a project done. I do tend to take on too many projects at once. However, I do feel like my ADHD does allow me to take on a lot of things at once, and for my focus to be in multiple places. So for me, generally speaking, if I am doing something, I need like 3 levels of stimulation, and that is usually the main task, some kind of noise in the background, and then maybe like an oral fixation, like a cup of tea or gum or a snack or something. So what that means that like I feel like I'm adapted to multitasking almost, because I like being stimulated, I need to be stimulated. However, when I do get too overstimulated, the kind of autism side comes out and then goes, I'm too overstimulated and now I can't do anything and I'm shutting down. So that's a constant like balance that needs to be kind of played with. for me. Another advantage is I do think ADHD enables my creativity a lot. It helps me to come up with new ideas for things, and usually if I'm not feeling creative, I'm usually in some kind of like ADHD burnout. But when I'm kind of quite hyped up and, you know, maybe going into hyperfocus on something, I'm very creative. I have lots of ideas, they flow through my head at like 1,000,000 miles an hour, and a lot of the time I can execute them, but usually I have to take advantage of that in the moment. And the great thing about ADHD as well is when it comes to ritual, being hyper-focused in ritual is great. Bit of a downside if there are distractions such as like the cat or sounds outside, but generally speaking in ritual, ADHD enables me to be super focused because there is enough stimulation, especially if I'm using a lot of tools in the ritual. So if there's like candle work to do and there's incense and, you know, I've got the sigil and I'm you know, perhaps saying an N or an incantation, or, you know, I'm invoking or evoking, like the process of invocation and evocation is very stimulating for the mind and the body. So all of those kind of ingredients enable me to be super focused during ritual. But I think it's getting easier for me to accept that what I expect of myself when it comes to my practice and how I deliver and how I show up, that my best looks different on different days, and that I'm human and I can't expect myself to be live up to my idea of perfection all the time. And I think this is an important message, especially for any of you guys watching who are also practicing magicians, occultists, witches, who you know, have a bit of a funny brain like me, that you know, kind of I think there's a balance between giving yourself a break and just understanding that, you know, this is how you're wired and this is kind of how you just deal with life and live your life, but also not using it always as like, it's a reason but not an excuse. So, you know, there's a difference between me acknowledging that, okay, I didn't show up to the best of my ability today, what can I do better tomorrow realistically, and me going, oh no, like I can't do that, I've got this wrong with me. Like, you know, there's a clear difference there. So I think there's a balance between sort of like cutting yourself a bit of slack but also being accountable. But it can feel a little bit like pressurizing sometimes, being an occultist and like having to show up for so much, because I feel like how we see occultists portray their practice online isn't always an accurate representation of reality. Like people, there are people that seem to be like neck deep in it all the time and like be doing like the most all the time, and I feel like, oh, you know, I look at that sometimes and just wish, oh, I wish I could just like be a 24/7 occultist and just be like superhuman. It's just about accepting that's just not me. And the way I show up on different days looks different, and my best looks different on different days. So if you are a fellow neurodivergent occultist, I would encourage you to bear this in mind, because this is definitely a reminder for me to bear that in mind as well, because I do tend to spiral into this thing of just like, I'm such an incompetent magician and a pathetic excuse for an occultist. So, and you know, none of that is true. Anyway, I'm going to leave this video here for today, guys. Thank you so much for watching. Please like this video and subscribe to my channel if you enjoyed this, and I will see you next week for the next video. Goodbye for now.